May I have your attention, please? If you have not done so at this time, please sign in and please silence all cell phones and pagers. Thank you.
Good morning. This meeting of the Louisiana Tax Commission is hereby called to order. This meeting is being held at the offices of the Louisiana Tax Commission at 1051 North 3rd Street, Suite 225, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The date is Wednesday, May 30th, 2018, and the time is 10:06 a.m. Please call the roll.
Chairman Shahardy?
Here.
Commissioner Wagaspat?
Here.
Commissioner West?
Here.
Commissioner Vercher?
Here.
Commissioner Wood? 4 present and a quorum.
Thank you. There being no old business to take up at this time, we'll move on to the next item. I'll accept a motion to defer the approval of the minutes of May 23rd, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagaspat?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood is absent. Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Shahardy.
Yes. All right, at this time we'll have a presentation on the 2017 Ratio Studies Report.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Jeff Crosby, the Director of the Appraisal Section of the Louisiana Tax Commission, and with me is Mike Allen, the Assistant Director. We are here before you today to present the results of the 2017 ratio study that was performed by the Appraisal Section. For 2017, we did a residential sales ratio study. That study encompassed taking residential sales from July 1 of 2014 through June 30th of 2015. We compared these the sales to the assessments, and in the smaller parishes where there wasn't enough for a sample size, we would extend that to all of 2014 and 2015. The results of our study show that there were 4 parishes outside of the Tax Commission guidelines. Those parishes are Sabine, St. Helena, Terrebonne, and East Carroll. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
What's the procedure that we follow based on those results? What happens now?
Typically, the assessors are ordered to reassess, and they're giving 1 year to complete that.
So that would be in 2019?
They would be from now until 2019.
Till the filing of the
This
roll in
year.
2019?
Right.
Okay.
And we provide assistance if they need it, whatever is requested, we'll help them out.
Yeah. And, okay.
Well, Jeff, maybe I've asked this question before. I'm just reading through the ratio study and the sample size.
Right.
It says large parishes, 500 as a sample. Define large, because I mean, I looked at Rapides. I mean, I looked at Rapides. I looked at
Right.
East Baton Rouge. You know, the way different, but both of them had a sample size of 500.
Right. We use it based on the population from the last census, and we have cutoff points, and that's where we establish the small, medium, and large. Now, a small parish, we have in our guidelines, we'll have 75 sales, but we may not be able to get that. Like, say in St. Helena, we had 30. That's all we could get.
That's all there was, yeah.
Now, we did extend that. We went and added 2013 and 2016 sales to get another 30 with that, just to see how it would come out, and the results are still the same. That would be unofficial, but we did that.
And the parishes that didn't meet the guidelines, the sample sizes there were, in your opinion, sufficient?
I think so, yes, sir.
Yeah, I realize the difficulty in some of these smaller parishes of getting enough sales. You know, but you never have too large of a sample.
Correct.
You know, you never have too large. I mean, even in a smaller parish, if you get 1,000 samples, that's better than having 500, and better than having 100, and better than any number. I mean, the larger your sample size is, and the larger number of sales you have, the better
Right.
off. The
But
better
in the
off
small
you are.
parishes, you can't
find
create
it.
sales. I mean, that's,
No,
you
I
use what you
understand.
have.
I understand. You have what you have, and it is what it is.
Correct.
So, and a lot of non-homogeneous properties probably also.
Right.
It makes it even more difficult. So, well, the commission staff is certainly here to assist all these parishes if they need our assistance. And I notice a number of the assessors are here. I don't know if anybody wants to comment. It's not necessary, but you do have the cooperation of the tax commission to work with you to get in the matters, to get everything straightened out and get things where they belong and where they should be. So just let us know if you need our assistance. We're glad to help. All right. All right.
Okay.
Well, I guess that does it. Unless there's something else I'm missing.
Nothing else.
Okay. All righty. Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your work. Thank you. All right. All right, we'll now move on to the appeal agenda for today. I would ask everybody or anybody who is going to...
Can I say a few words?
yeah, absolutely. Sure.
I'm sorry. First time.
Yeah, no problem.
Assessor Lonnie Grabert of Terrebonne Parish. I'd like to give y'all some information of what I was going through for reappraisal 2016. That was in a 2-year cycle from 14 to 16. We lost over 16,000 jobs in my area. The unemployment rate went from 4.1 to 7. We lost $1 billion in wages in that 2-year cycle to the workers of Terrebonne Parish. Our housing market doubled, went from 400 units to over 1,000 in 2 years of houses for sale in the market. Our share of sales went to almost 1 a day. And just in my office itself, from 14 to 17, usually we close about 80 to 100 counts a year for just one reason or the other. In 14 we had 135. In 16 we went up to 521. And in 17 we went to 607 businesses that closed the doors. So I would like y'all to consider that when y'all look at my ratio study of these other factors, not just what the houses were selling for. 14 was probably our last good year before the market started tanking. And that's just the information I wanted to give y'all.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
All right. I'll ask anybody who is planning on testifying at the table this morning to please come forward to be sworn in as a witness. It's necessary that you be sworn in if you're going to testify this morning.
If you haven't done this before, we swear all the witnesses in at once. So if you have an appeal hearing this morning, you need to come forward now. I'll administer the oath. After I administer the oath, please approach any of the microphones, affirm the oath by stating I do, and then state your name for the record. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Alicia Labatt, Louisiana Tax Commission, I do.
Emmanuel Russo, resident of 4527 Canal Street in New Orleans, I do.
Jacqueline Bush, 4310 San Remo Road, New Orleans, I do.
Thank you.
Russell Amraz, Orleans Parish Assessor's Office, I do.
Mark Gillespie, Louisiana Tax Commission, I do.
All right. Thank you. It is the Tax Commission's policy to accept all documents into the record that were timely pre-filed in accordance with the Commission's rules and regulations. This will be done at the conclusion of all hearings on today's docket. Accordingly, there is no need to formally offer or introduce the exhibits into the record during your appeal hearing. However, if you intend to object to the submission of any of the opposing parties' exhibits, you must notify the Commission at the start of your appeal hearing. As a reminder, this is an administrative hearing, and as such, the rules of evidence are relaxed. The Commission is inclined to review and consider all evidence submitted and to accept such evidence into the record. The first matter on the appeal docket this morning is the appeal of Emmanuel J. Russo versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22172-022. I see what appears to be all the parties at the table this morning. This is a taxpayer appeal, so Mr. Russo, you can proceed.
Yes, thank you very much. I wished I had known that new information would have been considered by you. I took that just, if I had missed the 2 weeks, I wouldn't have, it doesn't apply, but nevertheless, lesson learned. So when I got that assessment from them, the city assessor raising my property value from 210 to 368.9, naturally that was surprising. I was then motivated to look at all the other properties and to see that my neighbors were experiencing that same increase. They were not. Everyone was raised quite a bit, but my property was a little lower because I had repairs, that I had unfinished renovations from Katrina. I had, over the 10-year period, some additional things. I would have expected, you know, and today I just need to state some other material facts that I would have hoped the assessor's office would have been sensitive to. 60% of Americans can't handle a $1,000 bill unexpectedly. So I would have expected at least a phone call saying, we're universally across here assuming that your property is in as good a condition as all the others, and you've been enjoying low taxes for many years and we're raising them. We're just going to assume that. I would have expected a phone call at least. I didn't get that. Especially when I went to them for the first appeal informally. They capriciously offered me $36,000 off. I still said no. You would have thought maybe I'm a reasonable person. I want to pay a fair amount of taxes. But I went to the second level, and all that is in your record as to what was offered then. Still, I thought too low. That I think because the mindset of people is when somebody puts a number up so high and you're playing with a certain jersey on, you're not going to look at the number. You're always going to consider that number. And the fact is that $368,900 is just way out of the ballpark for my property. Your own assessor broke it down to a number of 269,000. 273, which was nearly what I was asking, and of course I was affected by the city's number too. But I think if you look at my house and you look at the repairs that need to be made, $100,000, and if you're paying somebody else to do all the work, isn't going to get me up to, you know, move-in condition with nothing left to do. So another thing that I thought, let me make another statement. When the appraisal had come out, one thing that I thought was curious, I mentioned the land value to her, which I had mentioned in my appeal to you, that it was $10,000 greater than all the others, and that I didn't have parking, and these were facts. And she mentioned, well, your property's bigger. And I thought, well, that was interesting. So the other night I looked again, and I saw that math on the assessor's page is wrong. They have the dimensions right, but somehow they take 33 by 120 and come up with 4320 instead of 3960. So I think that's part of the despair. My property's $10,000 more than my neighbors, who have access to their backyard and room for parking for 3 vehicles. I don't have my own personal parking spot on the property. So if you took that 10,000 and the assessor's value, you come up with a number very close to the number that I was asking from the get-go. I still think that number is very generous to the city, I still think I'm paying more than I should be paying. And as a human aspect, because I do think it's a material fact of this case, it's been 11 months. It's not been a process, it's been an event. Financially, it's stressful. Most people in New Orleans wouldn't have the wherewithal to follow through the procedures to sit here today to tell you. I called the city myself after getting your assessor's statement and trying to make some arrangements there. The conversation was less than desirable. I got a phone call yesterday morning at 9 o'clock. I would have expected, I would have bet anybody here $1,000 that they were going to call me the day before to try to do, I'm not dealing with private industry here on a deal. I'm a citizen trying to pay the right amount. I shouldn't be calculatedly stressed out over this whole thing. But today I'm very glad to sit here and tell my story, because I think there's many other people who were not capable of navigating this system and sitting here and telling you that the city of New Orleans has underperformed my minimum standard. And I hope that you look at all the numbers and consider them rather independently of anything that comes before and come up with a fair number for me, please.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Almaroz?
So the assessor's office revalued the property based on market value for the neighborhood. As the tax commission staff appraisal will show, there are multiple properties in the area that are selling for over $300,000 in fair condition. The assessor's office has no access to the interior of the property. The assessor's office tried to get documentation about the interior of the property from the taxpayer, because the appraisal that I had is in black and white and can't see what's going on. The taxpayer refused to provide documentation that said that was a discovery period. So the assessor's office, yes, called yesterday to try to settle this matter again, because we finally received the pictures showing the inside of the property that is gutted. We were not able to contact the taxpayer. The taxpayer did not respond to our call. I will address the fact that the assessor's office did not call the taxpayer because the assessor's offices do not call taxpayers. We're required by law to send out a notice of assessment increase, anything above a 10% increase. That was submitted to the taxpayer as every other taxpayer whose assessment has increased. It's a requirement, and we do that. We don't call each taxpayer one-on-one basis. It would be infeasible economically and as far as time to physically call every taxpayer. So we do send out a notice. Had the taxpayer provided the documentation that we asked
I hope
for,
I get a chance
Hold on,
to
just
make a
a second.
statement after.
we would have settled this.
If you had this conversation with Mr. Russo, and you said you were offering to settle, is there a number that you were offering?
We were going to settle for the tax commission staff appraisal value. Seeing the property gutted on the inside, we have no objection to the taxpayer, I'm sorry, tax commission's appraisal value. I will say also that the square footage of the property is valued or is factored on 4,320 square feet. That is incorrect on our part. The legal description of 33 by 120 is correct, for a total of 3,960 square feet. Factoring that in with the average, factoring that in with the neighborhood price per square foot for land at $25 a square foot, will come out to $99,000 for the land. We do have an error in our database, and I will address that when I get back to the office.
Okay, so let me get all of this straight. First off, you would have offered to settle for the tax commission's appraised value,
Correct.
which is
273.
273, which is what, $4,100 more than what you're asking for, Mr. Russo.
Yes,
So
sir.
the numbers are The same number.
Pretty close.
Yeah,
I
the
agree.
same.
Statistically.
At that point, I call them the same number.
Absolutely.
Okay. My fourth grade math teacher wouldn't agree, but it's the same number.
We can teach them
Yeah,
statistics.
yeah, it's insignificant. All right, let me explain this part. If when we look at valuing residential property, we look at the value of the whole property. People don't buy residential property by saying, oh, you know, I'll pay you $200,000 for the building, but I'm only going to pay you $50,000 for the land. You look at it and you walk through the property and you say, look, you're asking $300, I'll offer you $275, you know, whatever. So I want to make sure we get it corrected as far as what the land value should be, but whether the land value is $100,000 or $50,000, the overall value doesn't change. It does not change because we're looking at.
I'm looking at a total number too, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not
yeah,
interested
yeah.
in just the
so
land value.
The whole number is what counts.
Exactly.
And whether we take
That's what I have to-
$100,000 for land or $50,000 for land, the overall final value is still going to be
Can I
the
comment to
same
that?
number. Sure.
So a few years ago, they did transfer, and I really am now, that was a recent discovery, their mistake on their assessment of my square footage of the property. I do intend to go back and find out, it was like 6 years ago that they took money from the value of the house, moved it to the land, and I thought, well, you know, the property value in the area is going up, and maybe they were being nice for that. And I took them totally at face value, assuming, you know, I didn't look at everybody else. I didn't look at what they were doing. But to the gentleman's point about we can't call everyone and every time we increase their taxes, you're increasing my property value by like 70% above. That's going to affect my insurance. That's going to affect my mortgage for the escrow. It has large repercussions. He might have been more sensitive. And to the fact that I was uncooperative with him, my experience, of course we all live in our own bubble, but I called with a tone of wanting to be professional, and what I heard on the other end of the phone was, I'm sorry to say, it was antagonistic. So when someone's telling me I don't need to know how to spell their last name because I don't need to send them any letter at all, and it's too late for me to ask them anything, and discovery is long over, and then for them to ask me all these questions and to give sad excuses about how they don't know. They could have called me at any time. There was a huge problem here.
Did you get your?
You're doing well here today, so you don't need to say a whole
Okay,
lot.
I'm sorry.
Just one question. Did you get your letter from the assessor notifying you of the increase?
11 months ago, sir.
11 months
And
ago,
then
okay.
this is my third level of trying to get crazy straightened
yeah.
out.
The appeal process, obviously, actually technically there is no requirement under law that you go to the assessor, but it happens to be the easiest place to go first to get it corrected,
I had
okay?
expectations
But the law
of
does
easy.
set out that if that doesn't work, you go to the local board of review, which in this case would be the City Council in New Orleans, the local board of review, and then the Louisiana Tax Commission, then ultimately to the courts if either side
I'll remember that, sir.
unhappy.
Thank you so
Okay,
much for that
that's what required. The notice that you got was a result of legislation that was passed many years ago. I was involved in the passage of that legislation with Senator Shedler. And it came out of St. Tammany Parish, some issues in St. Tammany that came up. And if I remember the statute correctly, any increase in the assessed value more than 15%, I think it's 15%, you have to send a notice to the property owner informing them of that increase. And the assessor's office in Orleans does that, to the best of my knowledge, does that, as every assessor in the state does it all the time. It would be very difficult to make a phone call to every property owner that,
appreciate that.
you know, that has an issue with their assessment going up. So,
I make no disagreement.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
tell me again, you said that the land information that the office has on record
Mhm.
is off a little bit. Can
Yes,
you
sir. By
tell me
3
what the numbers are again?
The actual square footage should be 3960, if I'm calculating this correctly. It's 33 by 120.
33 by 120?
And our neighborhood value is $25 a square foot, which would put the land value at $99,000.
Instead of 10.8.
Okay. I didn't do the math, I'm assuming you're correct.
Yeah, I've already done it.
Did you, is it
Yeah,
not that
that's
way?
correct.
Okay. All right, I just want to make sure we've got that number correct. All right, Ms. Labat, you want to go ahead and tell us about your
Sure thing.
appraisal?
I inspected the subject property at 4525 Canal Street. It does have some significant condition issues. A significant portion of the property is gutted. The remainder of the property that is habitable is in fair condition. There's a lot of like reframing, restructuring, and some significant termite damage throughout the structure. So I classified it in fair condition. Determined a fair market value of $273,000. My land square footage is incorrect because I did base it on the assessor's website. Sometimes there's additional site square footage that is not on the available in a legal description. So if I were to modify my appraised value accordingly, it would still be $273,000 whole property value, with $174,000 attributed to the improvements and $99,000 attributed to the land.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, we have a motion.
Yeah,
Mr. Bertrand?
I'd like to move on docket 17-22172-022. I think the taxpayer has provided sufficient information to honor his request. Set the land value at $99,000, the improvement value at $169,900, or a total value of $268,900.
Second.
And I'd like to just add that the staff appraisal supports the value requested by the property owner. You can call the roll.
Okay. Commissioner Vercher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagsback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood is absent. Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Shahardi.
Yes. Thank you all. No, you're good.
Okay, thank you so much.
I don't know what I
appreciate
said. What I meant to say was the staff appraisal supports the value requested by the taxpayer. I don't know what I said.
it. You said
But then
$268,000.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Yeah, okay. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, okay. All right. All right, the next matter on the docket is the appeal of Jacqueline J. Bush versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22173-036.
If it pleases the commission,
What's that?
if it pleases the commission, before we start, the assessor's office has received new information regarding the condition of the property. We have no objection to the tax commission staff appraisal's value. In discussion with the taxpayer, she is in agreement, from what I understand, to the tax commission's appraisal value, the 150.
Yes.
So, just wanted to let you guys know.
That makes life really easy. All right, give me 1 second here. Just give me 1 second. All right, Ms. Bush, we have the documents that you submitted to the commission, specifically the appraisal that you had made done. and you are in agreement to accept the tax commission's appraised value of $150,000?
I believe that was fair.
Yeah, okay. And the assessor's office
Has no objection to
has
that.
no objection
Yes.
and also accepts that,
Yes,
that
sir.
number. All right, Mr. Gillespie, why don't you just tell us very briefly
quick.
about your appraisal?
Yes, sir. I did appraise the property at 4310 San Remo Street in fair, average condition. I used the sales approach and arrived at a value of $150,000. The land value is $35,200, and the improvement value is $114,800.
All righty. You have any questions? Have a motion?
Prepared to make a motion.
Please do.
On appeal of Jacqueline Bush versus Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 17-22173-036. Based on the testimony that all parties are in agreement with staff appraisal, I'll make a motion that the land is valued at $35,200, the improvements $114,800, for a total of $150,000.
Second.
Commissioner Varcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagsback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood is absent. Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Shahardi.
Yes. Thank you. The Tax Commission hereby accepts all pre-filed documents and oral testimony into the record as Taxpayer Exhibit 1 in Globo, Assessor Exhibit 1 in Globo, and Louisiana Tax Commission Staff Appraiser Exhibit 1 in Globo for each appeal hearing conducted today, respectfully. All of the other matters on today's docket, in the appeal section of the docket, have either settled or have been withdrawn. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of change orders.
Chelsea Sochet with the Louisiana Tax Commission Office. We have a total of 381 change orders for today's meeting. Staff has reviewed and recommends that the Commission approve 346 and place 35 under pending status per Appraisal Department review.
We have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept staff recommendations and approve 346 change orders.
Second.
You said 346?
Yeah.
Yes.
Approve 346
Three.
and place the
The
35
remainder under
Remaining
pending.
pending for a total of 381.
That's
Okay.
correct.
The 346 approval with 35 under
Pending.
review.
Mhm.
Which equals 381.
For a total of 381.
Second.
Commissioner Varcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagsback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood is absent. Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Shahardi.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
All right. There being no other matters to come before the commission at this time, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Varcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagsback?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood is absent. Commissioner West?
Yes.
And Chairman Shahardi.
Yes.